gas depots which have just taken off in Benin, where we are now converting cars from petroleum or PMS use to gas, is all a part of this particular initiative. At the same time, of course, our gas to power for the NIPPs come into play to some extent as well. I think at the point that over the next 4 years or so, where we see our refineries, our fertilizer and petrochemical plants, and all these other ones that I've mentioned begin to come into full fruition, we will see a very, very steady decline in the amount of gas flared as well. But I think that, of course, the fundamental issues, policy issues of more stringent punitive measures as well for flared gas will also come into play. And to ensure that the gas is utilized for domestic uses as opposed to just for export, we have to ensure that over the next 2-3 years, we make it attractive for investors, which I mentioned earlier. Therefore, the bankability of our gas comes into play as well, to a very large extent. We are therefore also trying to ensure that we have the right cost frameworks in place. Our gas obviously has to be cost competitive if it is going to be bankable and attractive for investors. Hence, I mentioned our cost structures and the fact that if we take ourselves side by side with Trinidad and Tobago and Egypt, we are not doing too badly at this time, but it is still an area that we have to work on very stringently. We need the right fiscal frameworks in place in general to ensure that we have more attractive gas for investors to come in. And to be bankable, we also need to ensure areas that you may not always think about, the right evacuation routes for our gas come into play. The fact that we must ensure the right markets for those gas, for that gas to be purchased in, and we need to be able to get the gas to those markets efficiently and expediently as well. So I think all in all, once we pull together this package and this framework in the manner that we are doing right now, and it's a complex layer of issues, but we are dealing with it very robustly and aggressively. We have the MD of the gas aggregator company here with us today, and he will tell you a little bit about that as well. But I think that once it comes together fully, which it is already doing, we should see as one of the results of this, or the outputs of this, a very marked reduction in both gas flaring and in terms of how we effectively utilize our gas resources as well.
Thank you very much. Let me build on that question and go to Mr. Allen from the ministry. What is the long-term prospects for availability of natural gas in Nigeria?
The long-term what?
Long-term prospects
for
availability of natural gas.
As a nation, we have a lot of gas, and we have a lot of gas in the ground. But let me start from where the Honorable Minister stopped. We currently have 6 fertilizer projects in the pipeline that have come to Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria, excluding the one in Notore that is already on the ground. 6 new fertilizer projects, and out of those 6, gas from flared gas will supply at least 3 of them. So we have one in Bayelsa State, we have one in Delta State, and we have another one in Edo State. We will have flare gas as part of the inputs for gas to those fertilizer plants. We do have a lot of gas in the country, and we have it in the ground. Investment has to be made. Wells have to be drilled to get the gas to the surface. Gas plants have to be built. With all that investment, it means we must have competitive pricing for the gas so that it's beneficial not only to the buyer of the gas, but also to the producer of the gas. At the moment, GACN, to which I'm the MD, we manage the domestic gas supply obligation, and as the Honorable Minister said, 10% of the gas that is currently for domestic gas obligation is actually reserved for the gas-based industries, which is fertilizer, methanol, and all the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now go to Mr. Jite regarding the company, the Notori company, and their producing urea and distributing it for the domestic consumption. Now, in that process, what do you see are the biggest challenge after you produce the material, getting it out to the farmers?
Well, you have to ensure, first of all, that you have a proper distribution channel in place that ensures that the product gets to the end users, who are the farmers, ultimately. So what you need to then do is ensure that your distribution channel is structured in such a manner where you have your wholesalers, your retailers down the line, and then you have the direct interaction with the farmers at the farm gate level. So the most important aspect of ensuring that is, of course, having reliable infrastructure that actually allows you get your products to the farmers at the most efficient price. Today, there are big challenges in Nigeria, in sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, in the sense that these channels are not properly or fully 100% engaged all the time. You have the challenge, first of all, in the sense that just in terms of having your year-round farming, we have rain-fed cropping structures in Nigeria, therefore guaranteeing only one planting season a year. If you have one planting season a year, you can't fully engage those distribution channels so that they're actually effective year-round. And then you begin to suffer fragmented sections of people showing up at certain times to distribute, and then after that they disappear. So you can't actually build long-lasting, effective distribution channels. So it's very important that we have the right infrastructure in place where you have, in Nigeria, less than 4% of our arable land is irrigated. And therefore, you're going to continue to have that challenge of farming year-round. So you're going to have a period where you have to actually export material because you can't hold stock. So that's one key point. Another point as well, too, that you have is the cost of transportation itself. It's actually cheaper to actually have products exported from Nigeria into foreign markets and actually be in those markets at a lower price than they actually are in Nigeria. The average cost of transporting 1 metric ton of fertilizers from, say, Port Harcourt or near where we operate to a place like Kano or even further down is about $80 to $100 per metric ton. It takes $40 per metric ton to get 1 metric ton of fertilizers from Onair into the UK. So when you start having those kind of major problems, you got to ask yourself, we are dealing with farmers who do not even have the financial capacity to actually procure fertilizers, okay, and at the same time are now actually having to buy fertilizers far more expensive than any of the markets. So this actually affects the channels and building very sustainable distribution channels. The third point of all is that you want to also make sure that year-round, those channels, those distribution channels are engaged all through the year. You cannot start having problems of production because you do not have the ability to actually have your gas supply being regular all through the year because of challenges that you're having. You may call it security challenges, whatever you're having. You need to be able to ensure that 24 hours of the day, 365 days of the year, you are in production. And once you're in production, you can then move those volumes effectively during those, through the channels, engaging the channels very effectively, and therefore having people invest in certain parts of that channels that actually appears to be viable businesses. So this is in a nutshell the only other way to ensure that we can build distribution channels that will provide fertilizers and improve seed and also education year-round to farmers so that yields can be increased, and then we can ultimately start striving